For years, we've been talking about how Hollywood uses things like diversity and inclusion as selling points. They don't actually care about these important topics. At the end of the day, they're just companies that want to make money, and now it seems like mainstream media is actually starting to understand what we've been saying for years. They have always trashed people like you and I who've said that Hollywood is only using diversity to revive franchises and pump out new movies to make more money, but the tables are turning because they're finally trying to understand what we've been saying all this time. This is a Forbes article. Box office. Hollywood is using diversity to justify potentially doomed franchise reboots. Now, before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And if you really enjoy the live streams and videos that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month. I do really appreciate all of the support, and all of the links are in the description. So this is an article by Scott Mendelson. Now, Forbes is really hit or miss. I personally like most of Paul Tassie's articles. He kind of covers mostly gaming for Forbes, but the people that they've got covering entertainment can be really bad at times, and Scott here is a defender of The Last Jedi. He loves to stay on the good side of companies, and he's been a defender of things that Hollywood has done for a long time. And even though I don't agree with everything that he says in this article, for sure, it is a negative swipe at Hollywood, which is why I think it's important to cover. So it says Hollywood is using inclusivity and diversity as an alibi for rebooting outdated franchises and past their prime properties, setting an entire generation of not a white guy talent up to fail commercially. This is a huge issue with this article that I have, which we're going to get into. It is a pretty long article, so of course I'm not going to read it all. I feel like some of it's just babbling on and on to make the article longer. But it says, I don't know who will play the new Superman in the Ta-Nehisi Coates penned and J.J. Abrams produced reboot/revamp. Michael B. Jordan is often offered up by folks arguing for inclusive casting as one of the few black actors they can name. Think of those in the 2010s offering up Catherine Bigelow to direct every macho franchise because they couldn't think of any other mainstream female filmmakers. Among those on the list to direct, J.D. Dillard is under the radar gem with a strong track record of a smaller scale genre winners. I did talk about this in a previous video, the whole new Superman Ta-Nehisi Coates reboot. But scrolling down, it says Transformers was one of the biggest global franchises in Hollywood. But Transformers Dark of the Moon was a decade ago. Age of Extinction only earned $240 million domestic and $1.105 billion worldwide in 2014, thanks to $300 million in China, but Hollywood took the wrong lesson from its success. So here we start to get into the conversation of superhero movies. It says the popularity of the initial 2007 to 2014 Transformers films was less about the IP and more about the can't get this anywhere, larger-than-life blockbuster spectacle and unapologetic weirdness found in Michael Bay's sci-fi action comedies. It says Travis Knight's Bumblebee, which earned solid reviews and sold itself as a smaller, female-led and more humane action fantasy, was ironically the only installment that needed a lifeline from China to qualify as a hit. I'm still not sure anyone beyond the hardcore superhero / comic book fan base wants another Superman movie. Now, Bumblebee was like a teen movie more so than any other Transformer movie, so it felt written kind of for kids, not the people who have nostalgia for the franchise and the people who are going to watch it. But comic book movies really hit their stride around like 2014, I'd say. I do really think that it's more than just hardcore superhero and comic book fans that want another Superman movie. Again, characters like Batman and Superman, a lot of people love, even if they don't read comic books, even if they aren't super into the comic industry, they still do care about superheroes. Maybe he doesn't care about superheroes anymore. But scrolling down, it says studios are using diversity and inclusivity to justify reviving old franchises. It provides an alibi for keeping ongoing brands on proverbial life support and rebooting existing ones. Now, what people want is just well-written movies. It's not that hard to guess. Not to see a character just to see a character. You can't just put special effects behind a guy in a suit and expect people to be in awe. To sell a movie, you have to, put it together like a great puzzle where everything fits together and everything matters. If Hollywood really meant and believed in this push for diversity in the industry, they would have done it a long time ago during times when these franchises they're rebooting were more popular. So many people have been pointing this out for so long, yet people like this writer have always ignored vocal fans who have felt this way, but now they're starting to point out the same things that we've been saying for a long time. After 40 years of disappointing, underwhelming Superman movies, Superman 2, of course, opened in June of 1981, Warner Bros. And DC Films are still trying to succeed. Superman Returns and Man of Steel failed. Even presuming good intentions and artistic value, there is an apparent cynicism in using the "but this time he's black" hook. Now, when it comes to Superman specifically, Henry Cavill has done an amazing job as the character. DC hasn't had the best writing over the past couple of years, that's for sure, and Man of Steel was as much a sci-fi as it was a superhero movie, but I enjoyed the Snyder Cut, and he played a fantastic Superman the whole time. It could have definitely been better, but this writer is really underplaying these movies because maybe he's not a superhero fan, or he's just trying to prove his point. Scrolling down, it says Men in Black International starred Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson. Still, most audiences just chose to watch Men in Black or Thor Ragnarok again. Elizabeth Banks' Charlie's Angels was more inclusive and more progressive than the MCG flicks. I liked it well enough. I'd happily see Kristen Stewart, Naomi Scott, and Ella Balinski in a sequel, but audiences didn't care. It talks about then Terminator Dark Fate. It says Tim Miller and James Cameron's Terminator Dark Fate cribbed the Star Wars The Force Awakens formula, young diverse protagonists with franchise vets acting as elders amid a loose remake for the first film. However, audiences had been burned by two awful Terminator relaunches. Now, that paragraph definitely sets the tone for the rest of the article because, as you will see, he basically says that when actors of color are connected to properties that fail, they get penalized for it, but when the white actors and directors are in something that fails, they get chance after chance to change their ways and do better, which is ridiculous. Actors are placed in parts that directors or producers think that they're best in, not what they failed in before, and he's trying to create a narrative that white actors and directors are immune to failure, yet he doesn't anywhere in here make a legitimate case for that to be true. If he wants to prove that, he has to do much better than what is written in this article, but continuing on, it says the casting of Jason Momoa as Aquaman would have made less of an impact had it been the first or second Aquaman reboot following one's starring. Offhand, Matt Damon in 2000 and/or Channing Tatum as Arthur Curry in 2007. Not only did we have a Pacific Islander starring in a 165 million superhero movie, but Aquaman was the first Aquaman movie as opposed to the first reboot. Now, I liked Aquaman. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a decent DC filler movie. It definitely added a lot of story to the DCEU, but unfortunately, I don't really like to rewatch it anymore because Amber Heard is in it, and every time I see Amber Heard, I think I visibly cringe. But it says that it turned out pretty great, certainly helped it nab 1.148 billion worldwide, and moreover, audiences wanted to see an Aquaman movie. If audiences don't want to see your movie, no matter how good, all the inclusivity in the world won't help. That is why Widows, Overlord, and A Simple Favor struggle while Venom, the Grinch, and Halloween flourish. Diversity is not a hindrance to getting general audiences in the theaters for something eagerly anticipated, but inclusivity is not a carrot for something they don't want to see. He almost just about gets that Hollywood doesn't actually care about inclusivity and diversity. They're only doing these things because they want to make money and to continue to seem like they're adding to these franchises instead of trying to keep these franchises going by actually writing better stories than they have been. They see this as an easy route by going, hey, it's Superman, but he's black, expecting people to line up and buy movie tickets. And to further prove that Hollywood doesn't actually care about social issues and that this is all just about money is the fact that they completely ignore human rights violations going on in China so they can still make money and release their movies there. But continuing on, it says audiences flocked to Crazy Rich Asians because it was a big and splashy 1990s style Hollywood romantic comedy. Force Awakens scored $2 billion global because it was a sequel to The Return of the Jedi. Its new protagonists were Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Oscar Isaac, a bonus which contributed to post-debut legs following, a $248 million opening and strong word of mouth. Trying the same trick with Terminator Dark Fate failed because audiences didn't give a damn about another Terminator movie. Now I actually agree with the part about Crazy Rich Asians where he says that it was successful because it was a big and splashy 1990s style Hollywood movie. People don't care if your lead is black, white, Asian, or female. They care about a good story with good CGI and amazing acting, but I disagree with the last part because we see with The Force Awakens, it didn't come off as a diversity-driven, pandering piece of trash. It looked half-decent from the trailers, and it wasn't a terrible movie. It was okay. It just wasn't amazing. And with Dark Fate, I really believe there were people who wanted to give this franchise another chance and give it a chance to thrive again, but we could see from the get-go, from the marketing to the casting to the trailers, that its intentions were clear from day one, and that's why people didn't care about it. It was a diversity-driven pile of garbage. The girl power diversity message was so blatant. That's why people didn't want to go watch it, not because it was Terminator and everyone was right, because even aside from the narrative, it was a poorly written movie, proving again their only hook was that narrative. Now, scrolling down, it talks a little bit more about Hollywood, the Static Shock movie, Miles Morales. Hollywood spent decades looking for the next Tom Cruise when they should have been looking for the next Will Smith. Now, the thing here is that, he fails to point out that Will Smith was in tons of things that failed too. He should say we should just be looking for the next great actor, not the next Will Smith or Tom Cruise. I personally don't care if someone, is a person of color or if someone is white or if someone's Asian. Doesn't actually matter to me as long as they're a good actor and they can do their job. But it continues to say, and only now when movie stardom is less valuable than ever and many of these franchises peaked decades ago, is Hollywood doing what it should have done at least 20 years ago. The Terminator franchise went woke after 2 miserable and poorly received sequels. Trying again specifically with a diverse cast was a trap that risked reaffirming conventional wisdom. Scrolling down, it says, in the final paragraph, if Hollywood has little choice but to rehash once successful cinematic franchises, because star power means nothing, at least these clearly talented actors and filmmakers are getting a bite of the apple. After all, it was an overemphasis on globally visible action fantasy franchises starring young white guys as the special, which the likes of My Family, Anaconda, The Best Man, Waiting to Exhale, and Rush Hour became endangered species. And then it finishes off with, of course, an article written by Scott Mendelson. Now, do I think that Scott Mendelson completely gets what's going on in Hollywood? No, I don't think that he makes some conclusions that are completely off base, though, but what he is starting to realize is that Hollywood doesn't actually care about inclusiveness and diversity. They're just looking for money and scapegoats when they don't make it. And look, is Hollywood intentionally setting up non-white filmmakers to fail? I don't know. I don't really think that we can say that because they're trying to use them as a hook to make money, but in a sense, yes, they're unintentionally setting them up to fail because Hollywood still believes they can make money off of this hook, and it doesn't look like that's the case. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.